On December 8th of 2019, police conducted a welfare check at a house in my hometown, Jonesboro, Arkansas, in response to a missing Alissa Reynolds. Alissa had made digital contact with others over the week leading up to December 8th, but it had been 5 days since anyone saw her alive in person. On December 2nd, security cameras at her place of employment, the Axis Manufacturing Facility in Paragould, Arkansas, captured Alissa leaving her job at 5:03 p.m. dressed in jeans and a pink pullover top. Alissa's neighbor spotted her on his home surveillance system, arriving at her residence 35 minutes later at 5:38 p.m. This would be the last time anyone saw Alissa Reynolds alive. The aforementioned welfare check to Miss Reynolds' home on the evening of December 8th was actually the second one that day. When cops performed the first one earlier, no one had answered the door. Without reason for further investigation, police left the residence only to return again that evening. While there was still no sign of forced entry, officers were greeted by the foul stench of decomposition as they approached the door of the house. With understandable cause for concern, the authorities made their way inside the residence. The following body cam footage shows exactly what officers discovered on the other side of that door.
Oh, he had been out of his house. He said he was en route to dinner.
It's a purse.
That's bad.
That's strong. You get it there, please.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this window right here. Right here by this gap.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Yeah, let's let him come back here.
Oh, shit, my shoes. Well, obviously, if we get in here,
Yeah, come on.
the car's been coming and going, and she's in the bad as fuck.
Right.
You got problems.
Oh, yeah. Come here.
Come stick your nose up here to this door. Well, let's not yell about it. Foul smell. Don't smell like dog shit to me, bro.
No, that is not dog poop.
Foul.
All right, let's do this.
I
I don't care who does it. Go ahead.
You missed.
You missed.
Police department!
Go ahead.
Jonesboro Police! Police department!
What does that smell?
Jonesboro Police Department!
Police department, if you're in here, answer up, please.
Jason, got it right here.
Is it?
It's all blood. Oh, God, yep.
All right.
Get the dogs out. Get those dogs out. Hey! Come here, Pooch. Hey, Pooch! Get him. I don't want to...
Yeah, I'm just looking to make sure.
Get him. Get him. Go
ahead.
10:22.
Yeah, 10-7.
Let's get out. Where are the other dogs? The other dog is somewhere.
There's one right here. Come here, pup.
It should only be 2 out.
No, hey, there's one right here. It's under her.
Really?
Yes. Well, it's under the.
I wonder when the dogs kept getting over there. We're going to call you back. Who is it, McCandless?
Yeah.
We got to get it.
Hang.
I just heard something right there.
I know. We need to go ahead and clear the rest.
Y'all go. I'm going to make phone calls.
Hey, have you already got it?
No.
On the. Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
Police department.
Good. I'm going here.
Police department.
There's no dog right here.
Okay, I'm clear. Hey, come on, pup. Hey, it's bad.
Yeah, that's fine. Hey, it's good. Hey, dude. Murder.
Clear. Alright.
What
Out.
about the door? You said the RAC.
Come here, pup. Hey. Shh. Come here, pup.
See. Chester and I came over here. We could smell odors even when we got in here. She's been covered up with blankets and pillows. She's got at least 2 blankets on her. She got what? She got, it looks like three blankets piled on top of her.
Alissa's body had been laid in that Chase lounge chair under multiple blankets and pillows for more than a few days. She was wearing the same clothes she had on when she was spotted leaving work. Alissa was still even donning her Axis company name badge. She clearly hadn't been home long before she died, and it was pretty obvious that she wasn't responsible for what happened to her. An autopsy later revealed that Miss Reynolds had been stabbed 18 times, as well as sustained numerous cuts that would have been caused by a slashing motion. Stab wounds were determined to be her cause of death, while injuries to her hands painted a grim picture of how Alissa had clearly attempted but failed to defend herself against her attacker. Even more telling was the fact that many of Alissa's wounds were inflicted while she was not moving. This means she was either unconscious or no longer alive when they were delivered. Whoever murdered her did so with either high-running emotions or they enjoyed it. But who would want to kill Alissa Reynolds? After DNA was scraped from beneath her fingernails and sent off for testing, authorities quickly began to unravel the mystery. Moments after the discovery of Alissa's body, officers began to question her neighbor, Devin Alexander.
What's up, man? What's up? I'm Detective Arnold, Jonesboro Police Department. Yes, sir. I understand y'all got some cameras. Yes, sir. You mind? Go ahead.
Yeah, they're all on here.
You notice anything weird over here?
No, I haven't. But I did notice when I was watching these, like, there was a police who came at like 12, and then she came like 20 minutes after he came, and then left, and then another one came. So I don't know.
So what now?
Like, all right, so she like, there was a cop that was here, and then 20 minutes after, she like left.
Who left?
I don't know. Somebody. She drives a Range Rover, and it shows her Range Rover on here.
Okay.
But, like, I'm looking straight in the
Did you see who driving?
No. And like the thing is, like when I was coming home from work, I saw the Range Rover like by me, but like this has nothing to do with this. But like someone, one of her like her or somebody hit my dent, like the door. That's why there's a dent in it. And so I was just like, we don't like look at each other because I try not to like make her think I'm mad at her or whatever.
Okay.
I mean, I am, but anyway, so I didn't look who was actually in the car.
Right.
But like someone was there, and they like left like instantly. So.
Okay. And you said that was around today?
Yeah, I got off at 2:15, so it would have been like anywhere. Like, she's been here like, or whoever was driving the Range Rover, like, I don't know. I can like even show you her following me because this camera picks up as soon as it sees like movement.
Okay. Yeah, and when I say all those videos, I mean every one of those videos.
Like here's me pulling it, and then whoever that is behind me. And that's what she drives, so I don't know if that's her or not, but you can't see, like she pulls up too far enough where you can't see.
Do they go into the garage or anything? Do they normally pull into the
Oh
garage?
yeah, she always parks in the garage. And when I went out, it was gone, so.
And I know you know them since y'all ran into each other, literally. Have you seen anything unusual, though?
Same thing.
When's the last time you seen? Who lives with her? Who lives at that house?
We have no. I just know it's like her, and then like dudes come in and out every now and then. Like I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many vehicles do you know what they normally drive over there? What kind of vehicles are that are normally there?
The Range Rover, the van, that's white van, and the car that hit mine, which is like a green small SUV.
Small green SUV. Who was driving that?
When it hit us, we got a video that hit us, but we have no idea who's driving it. That's why we couldn't get it like fixed like that.
Oh, okay.
So we don't know who it is.
So they backed into your driveway.
Like you see where that police car was right there? They backed all the way out from that driveway, hit my car that was sitting right there. So
okay.
I don't know.
And you have that video?
Yeah.
Can you send that to me
I
also?
can send that to you also.
Yeah, if you'll work on sending all those to me, I greatly appreciate it.
Devin Alexander, a senior and varsity football player at my old high school, Nettleton, described seeing Alissa's car coming and going all week, including it leaving the residence about 20 minutes after cops performed their first welfare check that day. In fact, he's got motion cameras that captured everything. But since Alissa's body had clearly been in the house for days, someone else must have been driving her vehicle. Devin also divulges information about how recently, either Alissa or someone connected to Alissa hit his car, leaving a dent in it. He's seen Alissa's vehicle coming and going all week, but because it's always parked in the garage, he's unsure who's been driving it. He does, however, mention another neighbor that may be able to provide a description of who was behind the wheel of Alissa's Range Rover. Police head next door to the Richardsons' residence to find out what they know.
Jonesboro Police Department. How you doing?
What's up, man? Good morning.
Detective Arnold, Jonesboro Police Department.
David Richardson, nice to meet you.
How you doing? Miss Richardson on the phone?
Yes. You come in, sit down.
Well, sorry we're intruding on you.
Well, we're not resting now.
I understand. It's a ordeal. But like I said, I'm Detective Brian Arnold. I want to know. I know an officer's talked to you earlier today. I say earlier, like earlier this evening. Yeah, just for a couple. But I was going to talk to you a little bit. I'm the investigator on this. Why can't you tell me about who lives next door to you?
Can't tell you anything about the guy that's in it.
What guy?
I don't know what he looks like even.
I guess it's her boyfriend. We hadn't seen Alissa in a while. Usually, I work out in my yard all the time.
Okay.
And I know the police officer next door, across the street, he works out in his yard and in his house all the time. Usually, Alissa comes in the afternoon, like when she gets off work. Well, here, I'm getting old now, man. I
understand.
But it's getting to the point where she had, a few months ago, she had lost her job. I think she got laid off.
Okay.
And
where was she working? Do you know?
where's that place she's working at?
It's human resource, but I can't
Somewhere. Human resource somewhere.
In Jonesboro or somewhere else?
I know.
Okay, and that's fine.
But anyway,
I'm the neighbor that ditches everybody and hides.
she
Say what?
I'm the neighbor that ditches everybody and hides, so I know just enough.
well, she don't get off work till late anyway.
Okay.
So she don't really know what goes on.
I mean, we've been friendly, you know
Right.
what I'm saying.
I understand.
And I don't wish anything bad on anybody.
No, I understand.
I can't give you a whole lot of details of what I'm saying.
That's fine.
But she this dude, I didn't know this guy, but I never said anything to him. He never said anything to me. He drove a white van.
Okay.
He drove there was a blue Chevrolet Blazer, and he drove looked like a little black tracker. Those three vehicles were the vehicles that I saw over there. But I never talked to the dude. And I don't even know if the dude even worked, because when I leave, go to work at 4:30 in the morning. That white van, sometimes it'd be in the middle of the driveway, and I thought that was kind of awkward, but I never said anything. And I hadn't seen Alissa leave or go in a while. But I know, when you live here, you don't pay attention to things.
I understand.
And then the other day, she was at work, and she didn't get off till like 7 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock.
PM, AM.
In the evening, late in the evening.
Okay.
Yeah, PM. And I was sitting here, my doorbell rang, and it was the girl that lived next to her.
Okay.
Right over
there.
Right
With
in the center of the cove.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Mustang.
Yeah.
She come over here and said, "Hey, have you seen this girl next door or anything?" I said, "No, I hadn't seen her." She had her daughter with her. I said, "No, I didn't see her." And she says, well, she said, not too long ago, she's got a camera on her thing. And she said, that dude that stays there, he ran into my son's car. And he ran into it. She showed me the video. I sat there and watched it. He backed into it, hit it, took off. He left. Like, he didn't even acknowledge it. And she said she went over there and she told Alissa, she said, "Hey," she says, "I want to show you the guy that stays here. He hit my son's car and he took off." She said, "Well, I don't know nothing about it. I was asleep." That's all she said. And
What day was that?
It was before
before Thanksgiving.
Okay, before Thanksgiving.
But I can't tell you.
That's fine. That's fine.
And she said that the girls was more worried about Alissa had some UPS. I don't know if it was from UPS for packages. I'm talking about big boxes, and they had set them right there in their front, right in their front, right there. And she said, "Do you think I ought to go get the boxes, and so nobody won't steal them?" I said, "Look, if she told you that I wouldn't mess with her boxes. I leave them longer. I don't want you getting in trouble."
Right.
That's what I told the girl. But that girl had that on the video, and she had that on the video where the state trooper drove up. A state trooper It was a state trooper and I want to say a fire truck.
I think
Drove
that's
up
the
that
day that she came over to talk to you was the day that the trooper.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, the day that she came, that girl over in that house right there, come over and talk to me, was the day that a state trooper and a fire truck was at her house, and she was wondering what was going on. So that's weird. Well, when the policeman come over and was talking to me, and she admired me, she said, "Hey, did you tell me a state trooper?" I said, "Yeah, because when I went up to the gym, there's a friend of mine that lived down here." She told me, she said, "Hey, David," she said, "me and Don, we was leaving the house today. We saw a state trooper and a fire truck coming down your street. And we saw it turn down in your, we thought it might have been, they were going to your house, but we knew y'all was at work." And it was weird because that girl told me the same. She got it on her video camera at her house.
And what was that? The same day?
Yeah, pretty much just the same day.
I think it was the same day that the next door neighbor came over to talk to you.
Yeah, I think it was pretty much the same day. But she's got it on her camera.
Okay, so what day was that roughly?
It was probably on, man.
Was it like 2 weeks ago? We're talking about
about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago.
I'm thinking it was about 2 weeks ago.
Something like that.
And the only reason because I started looking, I got to thinking, I'm like, I hadn't seen her or heard nothing from her. And usually I would at least hear the dogs or something.
The dog's always over there barking.
And so I got on Facebook to look to see if she had posted anything, and she hadn't. And then when I went back and looked, I noticed she had posted like from her. It looked like at Thanksgiving from her family's. So I was like, oh, well, okay, she's just probably gone or did. And I told David, I said, it was real weird because just a few days ago when I pulled, and I don't talk to anybody over here hardly.
Right.
I mean, I stay to myself.
I understand. I'm a recluse.
And so I pulled in, and when I was pulling in, waiting for the garage door open, I looked, and one of those vehicles was over there, the blue one. And it was in the middle of the driveway, and I was like, for some reason, I felt like, man, I should go over there and check on her, or I should call somebody and I don't know why I felt that way. I didn't do it. But I had, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
That feeling.
And what day was that?
That was, I want to say Thursday or Friday.
That dude bad news, though.
I have no clue. I was at home watching 13 Reasons Why. I'm trying to figure out who everybody is. And,
You don't think we got anything to worry about over here, though, do you?
no, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That dude, I think he might call. Listen, what I'm saying is, listen, her choice of guys, she's been through them. She just ran through them. And all the ones that she can have, they ain't been worth nothing. I told her one day, I said, I don't know why you attracting them kind of guys. I said, but you need to get you some new friends or something. Because them dudes that half of them don't work. She's always hurt. I don't know.
When's the last time y'all have seen Alissa?
It was when it was warm, summertime, when it was warm. The last time I just seen her.
Like, I mean, when was the last time you seen her? Have seen her last 2 weeks or anything?
No.
Okay. Have you seen her cars coming and going?
I seen her car.
Okay. When was the last time you seen her
The last time I seen her car was I think it was Friday. He was driving.
Okay.
He was pulling up. I was leaving out here. It was in the afternoon. I had got off. Let's see. I came home and the car wasn't there. And it was, I had dropped some stuff off here at the house, and I was leaving. I was pulling out here out of the cold. Got to the stop sign. He was pulling in. I waved because I thought it was her. And it was him. It looked like he had a bunch of stuff in the car.
About what time was that?
It was in the afternoon. It was probably around 4, 3, somewhere around in there.
3 to 4?
Something like that.
You drove past him?
Yeah, drove past.
And was he coming toward the house?
Yep, he was driving her car.
Because you thought it was her.
Yeah, I thought that's the only reason I waited, I thought it was her.
Alright. Anything else?
About a month ago, I heard something in the evening.
That's what she told me.
I swear
She asked me if I heard it.
I told David, I said it sounded like something going on.
Okay.
And I was like, did you, and he usually can hear everything, and I can't. And I just asked him, I said, did you just hear something? He said, oh, baby, it's the TV. I said, I don't think it was the TV. But, I listened to it. I didn't hear anything else.
She was in the back.
So about a month ago, back in November?
About a month ago.
Okay.
And that may or may not help you any.
Well, I mean, it does set up some stuff for us.
Mr. Richardson had seen Alyssa's car coming home on Friday the 6th, 4 days after she was last seen alive. Only Alissa wasn't driving her car. And the home surveillance system next door caught more than just her coming home from work on December 2nd. In fact, just before Alissa arrived in her white 2016 Range Rover, a dark-colored Chevy Tahoe left her house. This vehicle belonged to a man named Sean Cohn. Sean was Alyssa's live-in boyfriend. This is the guy that Mr. Richardson described as bad news. The same man who had recently reversed into Devin Alexander's Mustang before driving off like nothing happened. And that most definitely sounds like bad news. When Alissa got home from work on December 2nd, she parked her Range Rover in the garage at 5:38 p.m. And 10 minutes later, Sean Cohn was spotted coming back to the house on foot. A little over an hour after that, at 7 p.m., Alyssa's Range Rover is observed backing out of the garage and leaving. Witnesses later confirmed that Sean was indeed driving the vehicle, and he was spotted arriving alone at the Elks Lodge in Jonesboro. Sean was actually kicked out of the Elks that evening due to pending theft charges. It seems the establishment didn't want a guy like him hanging around. And who can blame them? Hit and run and theft aren't exactly character-building activities. One might describe this as not very Jesus of him. Sean was later observed arriving back at Alyssa's residence at 9:59 p.m. after stopping by a store and grabbing some beer. I'm not sure what store he stopped at, but I do know that the city of Jonesboro is in a dry county. This means you can't buy alcohol from anywhere that doesn't serve it under a private license, so Sean must have driven Alyssa's vehicle to the county line. But when Alyssa's body was discovered on the evening of the 8th, Sean Cohn was nowhere to be found. But we already know Alyssa's car left the house shortly after the welfare check that afternoon. And since it couldn't possibly be Alissa driving because she'd been dead in the house for days, cops needed to find Sean Cohn immediately. And to be fair to authorities, they made short work of this task, even if it was by the hair of their chinny chin chin. It's not known exactly how authorities discovered it, but Alyssa's Range Rover was found heavily damaged and parked an hour away at Memphis International Airport in Tennessee. Sean had skipped town and state, and he'd obviously done so that day. In fact, by all accounts, Sean was still in the house with Alyssa's body when the cops did their first welfare check. But now, he was headed for Key West, Florida. I'm sure when his plane took off, he thought he was home free, ready to leave whatever happened in Jonesboro all behind. But just after his plane touched down in Florida, authorities were waiting and they took him into custody immediately. In fact, they got him on the tarmac. Sean never even made it into the airport as a free man. But the investigation wasn't over. After all, what did Sean have to say for himself regarding the murder of Alissa Reynolds? Well, cops were about to try and find out.
Detective Arnold with the Jonesboro Police Department. So last paragraphs of the waiver of your rights, it says, I read this statement of my rights and I understand what my rights are. I'm willing to make this statement and answer questions. I do not want a lawyer at this time. Understanding of what I'm doing. No promises or threats have been made to me, and no pressure or coercion of any kind has been used against me. So, I need you to initial right there, sign down there.
Well, I'm not answering questions without my attorney.
Okay.
So, still initial these and not that?
Whatever you want to do. So are you saying you want your attorney here?
Yes.
Okay. You're done.
Because I don't even know details. I'm not even been told anything.
Well, that's what we were going to talk about, but I couldn't really talk to you about it without that, so.
I'm not talking about attorney.
You go ahead and end this at 8:36. They'll escort you back.
So Sean Cohn lawyered up immediately. Now, you might be thinking, what a coward. That must mean he's guilty. But the truth is, whether or not Sean has done anything wrong, the absolute smartest thing he could have done for himself is request an attorney. Actually, anyone who finds themselves in the same position Sean's in right now should do the same damn thing. And I'm by no means batting for the bad guys here. It's the best thing a good guy can do too. The moment you're being questioned as a suspect in a crime, you should protect yourself immediately by lawyering up, innocent or guilty. Remember, anything you say not only can, but will be used against you in a court of law. The police are not there to be your friend. They have no interest in making sure the world sees you in a better light. Their job is to solve a case and get a confession. Even when authorities have all the evidence they need and it clearly indicates guilt, they'll still fight to get a suspect to talk themselves into a confession. It's a quicker trial, cheaper for the city, and it makes the department look damn good. Just as we saw in our previous case about Gail Spencer. Cops had everything before they ever conducted an interrogation, even video evidence and bank statements. But for them, getting that confession is the cherry on top. If you're being questioned as a suspect in a crime, it means they already think you had something to do with it. Being questioned as a witness is a totally different thing. But when your rights are read before questioning, the best thing you can do is lawyer up and answer no further questions if you know what's good for you, especially when you're innocent. There is no shame in protecting yourself and exercising your rights. Remember, cops don't have to tell you the truth, and they will lie about evidence. They'll even tell you that your buddy down the hall is singing your name just to get you to mention his. Police interrogations of a suspect are never in the suspect's favor. That's why seeking legal counsel first is crucial when you're innocent. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy when a guilty suspect talks their way into a jail cell. In fact, nothing delights me more. Fair play to the officers that are able to make this happen. I'm never going to root for the bad guys in police interviews. I want them off the streets, and I want them to incriminate themselves as much as possible. I think most of us share in that opinion. But why do they talk to cops when they don't have to and it does them no good? After all, there are so many interrogation analysis videos online these days that you would think most people would know better. So why talk to cops? Well, in my opinion, the answer's quite simple. You and I are probably never going to be guilty of the horrible crimes covered on this channel, but many of those who are much more likely to possess narcissistic qualities or even antisocial behavior patterns, which lead them to falsely believe they can talk themselves out of suspicion. They often believe they can get home by speaking, because many of these guilty suspects believe they're better than everyone in the room. Narcissism and antisocial personality disorders often carry grandiose delusions. A lot of these people tend to have a highly inflated sense of self-importance, especially those later deemed as habitual offenders. Habitual repeat offenders are often sociopathic. That's why many of those guilty of the most heinous crimes tend to think they can outsmart the police. But it's extremely difficult to outsmart evidence. But aren't we glad that so many guilty suspects end up talking themselves into holes? It gets the bad guys off the street, and it certainly makes for a compelling as well as fascinating review later. But when it comes to Sean Cohn's case, while he made the right move in requesting an attorney up front, that doesn't mean he hasn't done anything wrong. So other than a guy my old housemate used to work with for a little while back in the day, just who is Sean Gregory Cohn?
The man accused of killing Alissa Reynolds in Jonesboro appeared in court today. You'll recall that Sean Cohn was arrested all the way in Florida. Tonight, we take a look at Cohn's criminal history in this Region 8 News investigation. Cohn's criminal history began 7 years ago in 2012 in Baxter County. Our records show that deputies arrested him on suspicion of defrauding a secured creditor and theft of property. Investigators accused him of selling his houseboat for $275,000 before he paid off the loan on the boat. That case took years in the court system until 3 years later when Cohn negotiated a guilty plea. A judge ordered him to pay over $191,000 in restitution and other fees, but as of November 20th of this year, Cohn had not made a restitution payment to the bank since August. Before that revelation in November, a judge actually charged him in September for theft greater than $5,000 after police say that he cashed more than $17,000 worth of stolen checks. Those checks were made out to Arkansas flooring contractors, including one from Paragould School District. That brings us to this latest case, a murder. Court documents say that Cohn was dating Alissa Reynolds and living in her home. Police found her on the couch after being dead for days. They learned Cohn may have been traveling to Florida, causing both federal and local authorities to work together to arrest him as his plane landed in Key West. He appeared in court today where a judge set a $5 million cash-only bond.
So it seems Sean had a little bit of a history. And I can see some speeding offenses dating back to the 90s, and even one charge of contributing to the delinquency of a minor from 1995. Then in 2013, he copped a driving with no liability insurance charge too, along with one for expired tags and failure to register. But what about that boat the reporter mentioned? Well, according to police documents, Sean sold a boat to a couple in 2011. About a year later, that couple came home to find their watercraft all chained up, with a note on it that read, "Contact the bank." Turns out, about $260,000 was owed on that boat. Sean had obviously financed the vehicle to buy it, and then went and sold it without paying off the mortgage. So he had the cash while the innocent couple had the boat, and unbeknownst to them, the $250,000+ debt owed on it. Now that's definitely not something Jesus would do. And to make matters worse, it was later learned that Sean had done the same thing with 2 other boats. A couple years later, in 2015, he pleaded guilty and was handed down a sentence of 192 months or 16 years in prison for the trouble he caused. That's a lot of time spent getting your cornbread stolen over a couple of boats. And he only had just 1 day served when he got the sentence, so he must have gotten out on good behavior after a few years, because on the 24th of November in 2019, just days before Alissa was last seen alive, he was charged with driving while intoxicated, having an open container in a motor vehicle, no liability insurance, and failure to register. Then 2 days later, on the 26th of November, he was hit with a failure to appear for skipping court on the aforementioned charges. This must have been around the time Sean reversed his car into Devin Alexander's Mustang. I wonder what impaired Sean's vision and caused a lapse in judgment so drastic that he felt a hit and run was the solution. One would imagine a little boost of liquid courage might have done the job. And don't forget, during this time Sean had some pending charges, or at least some accusations involving theft, that caused him to get banned from the Elks on December 2nd. Sean's life was quite clearly crumbling by his own unsteady hands leading up to the murder of his girlfriend Alissa Reynolds, a girlfriend whose body he'd been living with. But let's talk about what Sean had on him when police apprehended him in Florida. Inside the blue backpack that authorities confiscated from Sean, they found $5,500 in cash, some foreign currency, $2 bills, notebooks, an iPad, and a document titled Countries with No Extradition Treaty with the U.S. Cuba was listed as one of those.
Miscellaneous credit cards in the name of Alissa Reynolds and his name. There's some of hers and some of his.
While Sean Cohn refused to speak to police regarding a formal interview, he would later plead not guilty. But he wasn't the only one authorities questioned regarding the events leading up to the discovery of Alissa's body. And this is where things get even more chilling. While Alissa hadn't been seen since December 2nd, she was digitally in contact with various people after that time, leading right up to the day her body was found. While what you're about to see is not footage of Sean Cohn himself, it's no less shocking than if it was. This first interview was conducted with Alissa's friend, Lori Alp.
When was the last time you talked to her?
Like her person?
Seen her.
Last Friday. We all 3 met up.
Okay. When was the last time you talked to her on the phone?
Like heard her voice?
Yes.
I haven't.
Hadn't talked to her since? Mm-hmm. When was the last time you received a text from her?
Afternoon.
Today?
All day.
Okay. When was the last time you received a text that you knew it was from her?
All week we've been suspicious. Starting like Monday, things just haven't seemed right all week. She has said some things that did sound like her, but she's just been distant, I guess, is what I'm. Okay. Well, I mean, we send 100, 200 texts a day, and then this week it's been much fewer. So we've even said, Alyssa, are you okay? Is everything okay?
You say 100, 200 texts. Is that just you and her, or is that
in our group message?
Okay.
Well, it's just me and April and Alyssa in a group message. We text from 6 a.m. If we've not heard from someone at 6 a.m., we assume they're sick. Like Thursday, she said, I've had a mandatory fire extinguisher training pretty much all day. Talk about a headache. Like that. How do you do a training on a fire extinguisher all day long? It's just been...
What did you get today?
Today. The typical good morning. We talked about going to church. And here's where we started seeing things were off. We talked about going to church, and then she said, I planned on going, but didn't. I've been worthless today. And then I said, did you do anything yesterday? And she said, no, I was a couch cushion until later, and then had to do dad's stuff. And then later on, she said, well, I'm on my way to my dad's. And it just wasn't making sense. But it just, so then when I started saying, April and I were together at that point, and we thought something was odd, and maybe her friend Dana had called us and said she didn't show up to meet me yesterday. She was supposed to meet Dana at noon on Saturday.
Dana.
Watkins, she's on her way here. She kept putting Dana off and then told Dana that something happened with her dad and that she couldn't come.
Okay. What were they going to do yesterday?
Go to Batesville. And she said, I'm on my way back from my dad now. And I said, but you just said you were being worthless on the couch. I said, do you want to meet us for a drink? She said, I'm 15 to 20 minutes away. And then she never showed up. Then she said she was stuck behind a wreck. And then 2 hours went by and I called. And someone answered and hung up. I called right back, someone answered and hung up. And then she said, my phone's on 1%. And then she said, here I come. And I'm almost there. I'm on Stadium. And that's whenever... I said, I'm giving her 15 minutes. I'm going to tell her we're sending out a search party, and I'm going to call dispatch. And she said, I was in a wreck. I'm at St. Bernard's, but we called St. Bernard's, and she...
That's today?
Mm-hmm. That was her reasoning for not meeting us. And there was no accident report either. Officer Schill checked on that.
And what's her boyfriend's name? Or
Sean Cone.
So that time you saw him?
Oh, I've not seen him in weeks.
Okay.
But he was seen Friday at Chili's. And that the girl that saw him, he was in Alyssa's car and on her way here too.
He was by himself?
Yes. Megan said that he was there when they got there. They had appetizers, their meal, and left, and he was still there.
Okay. Was it the bar? Or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He was kicked out of, voted suspended from the Elk Lodge on Monday.
Okay.
He was seen at the Elk Lodge on Monday and was voted to suspend his membership.
You know what?
Because of all of his behaviors, getting arrested and things. We only allow members of good standing. She was supposed to meet Whitney Holmes on Wednesday and didn't show up for that, but only canceled via text also, and said that she had to go to a meeting at the Elks for Sean out, and that didn't happen. Was a meeting on Wednesday. So I'm assuming that was probably him. Things have just not felt right all week long with her behaviors. And then especially whenever everyone started talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I even said on Tuesday, you've been really quiet today. And all week I've just been binge watching Hallmark, which she does that. But I think Sean knows that she would do that, and he would say that.
She was supposed to work this week? Or?
As far as we know, she is at work all week.
Okay. We'll check on that. Anything else?
No, I'm scared of him.
Yeah. What was that police report picture?
Oh, because he got he died in ditch from sumo, and April saw the police report. He got drinks and ate and then left.
Wow.
Are you aware of his history?
No.
So he's a felon. Has been out, I don't know exactly how long. But then Alyssa's been paying his bills, paying his restitution. Is that what it's called? She's had to pay that for him. She's kind of financially been supporting him off and on for the last year and a half.
How long have they been together?
Off and on the last year and a half. He was living with her, but then they've been broken up probably 6 months or so. But as we've all been talking, I think that he has been secretly staying there, and she's had a pulpit body. He got a DWI a few weeks ago, and then a failure to appear for his court date. I think last week maybe, or 2 weeks ago. And then he had this down a ditch thing, so that kind of hit quick right now. But he is a felon on probation or whatever it's called.
You started telling me about Alyssa's dad.
Okay, yeah. So Alissa fills his pillbox every Friday.
Okay.
Dad called her. Sean answered and said she's at work. I'm changing the battery in her car. So Dad, he has her garage code in case she's still at work, where he can just leave his pillbox in the house. The garage code wouldn't work. This is 2 days ago Friday. Garage code. So he left it outside on the porch. He called back on Saturday, and Sean answered again and said that Alissa was with Dana. And Dana was already... Alissa didn't show up to meet Dana either.
That's when we were basically at.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So Dad went to the house, the pillbox was filled, and sat outside, and he picked it up and left.
Sean said he was changing her battery?
On Friday. I did send a text at 4:30.
Today?
When we kept calling and calling, and she wasn't answering. And I said, Alissa, we've checked and you're not in the ER. Your dad's not seeing you, near as Dana. This is Sean with her phone. It's a good time to tell the truth. And so,
No reply.
Which is why I got scared, because Adam said, well, he knows you know what's going on now. But
The next interview was with Alyssa's friend Dana Watkins, and portions of her testimony are even more chilling than Lori's.
Where do you fit in this picture?
I'm the one that figured out something was messed up today. Okay. She and I was supposed to go to Batesville yesterday.
Okay.
To go to a 31 meeting. It's like a direct sales thing. I said, do you want me to come pick you up, or do you want to come over here at my house? She said she'll come to my house. And 12:03, she texted me and said, hey, I'm getting my dad's meds ready, but I'll be there as soon as I get them done. Because she puts pills in her dad's box for me every week or something. And I said, that's fine. I'm putting on my makeup and I'm not in any rush. Well, I was piddling around the house, and next thing I knew, it was 1 o'clock. And I thought, that's not 12-ish. And so I texted her, I said, are you on the way? And she said, I'm leaving the house right now. And I sat there for about 10 more minutes. I said, if you don't get here in 15 minutes, we're going to be late. And I had called her at some point, and it always goes to voicemail. After I waited about those 10 more minutes, she texted me, and it's this big long text that says, hey, I was on my way, but I'm on the phone with my dad. He was acting funny, and so I finally got it out of him that he's fallen hurt. He's hurt his hip. And so I'm turning around to go to my dad's, and he lives like in Cherry Valley or something. And I won't be able to take Batesville with you, I'm sorry. And I said, okay, well, that's fine. Just keep me posted on how he is. And I mean, this could have really happened, the messy part of it. And she said, well, I think he's fine, just bruised, but I'm going to take him to Thursday to the doctor just to make sure. And of course, all these things I'm thinking today, you would have brought him to Jonesboro, closer, probably. So anyway. So supposedly, they were filling out paperwork and didn't get the hell out of there, according to the text. Again, no, she'll never answer the phone or anything. And later that night, I said, well, who's going to stay with your dad tonight? You know, he's 70-something years old and Bubba's hurt his hip. She said, I don't know, I might. Or she said, you know, basically like, I need a drink. I said, well, you can come by here. Who knows when we'll get home from there or whatever.
Right.
And so at that point she said, I need 5 gallons of wine and a straw. Well, that wasn't quite like saying I need a glass of wine or 3 or 4, but it was just a little off, you know what I'm saying? So anyway,
this was all yesterday?
That was all yesterday until last night. And that next morning, I said, are you alive? Because I was waiting. She just never responded to me or the other girl. Okay, so this morning at 8, I said, did you end up staying at your dad? Well, yeah, unfortunately I did. It's not what I planned, but I did. And she says, I'm having coffee now, but I'll call you when you get on the road. So it gets to be 9 o'clock and everything, and I'm calling her, nothing. Get out of church about 10:30, call her, nothing. And about 12-ish, she finally said, well, I ended up, or who was the person? I ended up cooking breakfast when she don't cook. And then I went out and got some groceries for my dad made soup. Even though it wasn't very good, I made the soup. So then at that point, I Facebook messaged April and I said, have you seen Alissa or heard from her in the last couple days? And she's like, no, just some text. So then I messaged her sister, Alissa's sister, on the thing, and I said, have you heard or talked to your sister? Because I thought if the dad fell yesterday, she would have found her.
Right.
No, not in about a week. I mean, we all just started comparing stories because at this point, this person is texting it from her phone, from Alissa's phone, up until about 2:45 today. But at some point, she would try to call because I was like, I want to hear your voice. She called, her number called me, nothing. It's her real number,
Okay.
her personal number, the same one that's fake texting me all day. Then she immediately texts and says, well, I dropped my phone and apparently no one can hear me. And then she goes down the road. She does that to her sister. She does that to April, to everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So I just knew, like, it's just not like her. Anyway, all that stuff went on all day long. She supposedly had a wreck, supposedly going to go see them at Buffalo Wild Wings. All these different excuses. And finally, she says, oh, I could come see you in a minute, which this guy that we think it is, he's been to our house before for dinner. So I was like, I had already put my car in the garage and my husband wasn't there and I had our gun on the table just in case. I said, I'm not home, I'm not shopping, and Steve's home. So then a few little minutes later, she says, do you want to meet for drinks and appetizers later? Which 10 years ago, I was in that crowd, but I mean, I'm a married lady now, I don't do that. And much, I mean, occasionally, but I said, and I never wrote back. And a little bit later, finally, everybody's comparing stories, and this person's telling them all these different things. She wrote back, question mark, question mark, question mark. This is 2-something. And I went back and I said, your dad hadn't seen you. By this time, her sister Stacy and I were talking on the phone. She finally called her dad to verify this fake falling story and all this. She's telling me that her daddy called yesterday. Alyssa's son, Sean, answered and told her daddy that Alissa was with Dana in Batesville.
In the final interview, we're going to hear from someone named Stephanie Fagley. She met Sean in the late 80s, early 90s, while she was working at Porter's, a liquor store in Augusta, Arkansas. They dated for a little while during that time, but Stephanie feared Sean wasn't the type that was ever going to take the relationship seriously, so she ended it but kept things on good terms with him. Fast forward years later, sometime around 2013, her and Sean ended up back in contact after linking up via Facebook. She ended up in a relationship with Sean again, only this time things were serious enough that the pair moved in together. Sean had gone through a divorce and was smack dab in the middle of his boat fraud troubles during this time. Stephanie said the two broke up around 2017 but remained in contact. You might be wondering what an old flame of Sean's has to do with the murder of Alissa Reynolds. Well, the last person Sean visited before going to Florida was Stephanie, and it was just hours before he got on the plane. The night after Sean dined and dashed at Sumo, after ordering sushi and drinking 7 beers, Stephanie messaged Alissa after seeing a report of Sean's crime somewhere. Sumo had called the police to report Sean's actions, and she was worried that he'd gotten himself into even more trouble. Stephanie claims that a couple minutes after messaging Alissa, she received a call from Alyssa's number. The two had spoken on the phone before, but their communication was usually kept to messages. When Stephanie answered, she was greeted by Sean's voice. She told him that he shouldn't be using Alyssa's phone. Sean told her that Alissa was passed out drunk, and the date that this occurred was December 2nd of 2019, the last day Alissa was seen alive. The following day, Stephanie messaged Alissa again informing her of Sean's unauthorized usage of her phone. Alyssa's number replied that it was under control and she now had a lock on her phone. But of course, it's believed Alissa was murdered on December 2nd as she was found still wearing the clothes and work badge she had on that day.
Have you and Sean been in contact since y'all kind of broke off and quit living with each other?
Yes.
Okay. And how regularly are you in contact with him?
I went almost a year without speaking to him.
Okay.
And he
could not handle it to a degree, and then he would contact me. And all my friends, you know, I mean, this could be me. This is why I'm like a hot mess today, because all my friends are like, stay away from me. You need to do this, you need to do that. And I'm like, y'all don't understand. Like, I'm going to be nice because I don't ever want him having any reason to come after me. Like,
Right.
you know, I mean, he never did anything, but when somebody's about to lose everything, you don't know how desperate they're going to be. And
Okay.
it's just
And why?
like it.
Okay. What do you mean by lose everything?
Because he was heading back to prison.
When?
He has a felony, and he went to prison in 2015.
Okay.
And I was going to leave him then, and when he went to prison, it was over a boat.
Okay.
So, to me, I'm like, he did something wrong, but he did not murder somebody. So, I'm like, and he went to boot camp, and he came back, and I thought he was going to straighten up, and he did not. And so, when our lease was up, and I could get out of the lease with him, that's whenever I was like, I'm out, and I got away from him.
Okay.
I stayed in contact with him after that because of trying to get my deposit money back, different things like that. Like I said, just trying to stay in good graces.
Okay.
And both of the people that I know that he's dated since he's been here have contacted me about him. And I'm like, I will tell you everything I know about him, because my thing was like, whoever he goes with, I think for one part, I'm happy that he's with somebody because he's away from me, but another part, I go back with him. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So,
Why is that?
why is that? Because there's a lot of baggage coming with him.
Okay,
He
such as?
he drinks, I don't even know how to explain it. He drinks a lot, he lies a lot, and that's what I couldn't handle, is all the lies. Like, it got to the point that if he told me he was going to get us some paper, I didn't even believe that that's where he was really going. Like, that much lies. I've never seen somebody lie as much as what he lied. He just got in trouble for checks, for stealing some checks. Then he turned around and got a DUI, and so he's about to go back to prison. And he told me he wasn't going to prison. And I'm like, okay. So he told me that he was leaving, and he just said, I'm not going back to prison. And I was like, you know, I told him, I said, you're crazy to think that you're going to be able to leave the country, first of all. I mean, you have a felony. You're not, but I wasn't going to argue with him. I thought, you go to Key West, and I thought, he's either going to drink himself to death, he's going to get into some trouble because he likes to gamble, he's going to get killed, you know, I don't think he's there, or he'll go back to prison. Like,
Right.
I mean, that's what I think was going to happen. So, I got a call this morning from my friends, and, when she called me, I knew something was wrong because she's never up that early. My head, you know, just went crazy.
What'd she tell you?
That he had, that his girlfriend, or the girl he was living with, was found dead.
Okay.
And they think that he did it. And that's whenever I was like freaking out.
Now, y'all been in contact off and on. In the past year, how much you've been in contact with him? Like, how often?
I mean, it's so sporadic. I mean, I even went, whenever he contacted me, I want to say in October sometime, and then I didn't, his phone got cut off, and that's when I was in conversation with Alissa.
Right.
And
We just spoke also.
yes, we spoke often, like
Okay.
probably at least weekly,
Okay.
if not, you know.
What was she saying?
She would tell me things, you know, like what he's done, what he's doing, lying, drinking. She told me that he had stole her credit card from her and went and bought some beer and, you know, things like that. And I'm like, you know, I tried to tell her, like, all my friends are telling me to get away from him. And I'm like, she said, I'm just trying to give him a place that he goes away. She said, I'm ready for him to go to jail or go do something. But, you know, she was just kind of, because he had nobody. Like,
Right.
he had no family contact, nothing.
Okay.
Not very many people that he could actually call friends. Nobody that would let him stay with them. So
Okay.
she was just trying to do that. And I'm trying to kind of encourage her, or, you know, be a sounding board for her and trying to, you know, help her however I could. he was planning on leaving the country. And like I told you, I didn't think he was ever going to make it. He asked if he could see me on Saturday. He said, I want to say goodbye to you. And I said, okay. Came to my house. He got there about between 6:45 and 7 o'clock, in her vehicle. And so I asked him, I said, what are you driving? And he said, it's her vehicle. And I said, why are you in her vehicle? And he said, she's gone to Mountain View. And I said, so you're in a stolen vehicle because she doesn't know that you have it. And he's like, she won't know. I'll have it back before she gets home. So we went and ate and had dinner together and just kind of talked.
Did he sing? Well,
he told me she was in Mountain View.
okay.
And I said, what is she doing in Mountain View? Because I thought it would be weird for her to leave him at her house. I mean, I know she's done things before and she's left in there, but he said that she was with some friends or something, and that she would be back Sunday night, is what he told me.
Okay.
And he said, I want to leave before she gets home. I don't want to see her. And so he told me he couldn't get the flight out that he wanted. He wanted an original flight on Sunday, like an 11 o'clock flight or something, and there was one ticket left, and he was trying to get his friend to help him get the ticket because he doesn't have a credit card or anything. He asked me if I had money in my account to do it, and I told him no. And then the only flight left was like a 6 o'clock flight. And I said, you're never going to make it by the time you get back to Jonesboro, you pack, you drive to the airport, you got to be there early, plus you still got to get a ticket, you're never going to make it. And he said, well, I don't want to be at the house with her. And I said, well, then why don't you go get a hotel? I mean, and I know she's ready for him to go, so I'm trying to encourage him to just go. Don't, get out of her hair. And he called me last night and told me that he was pulling into the casino.
Which casino?
The Horseshoe.
Okay.
And and I didn't know that until he texted me a picture of it sometime this morning, that he was going to the casino and he could get a free meal and a free room. And I'm like, you're still making bad decisions. You don't need to be at the casino, to go to the hotel, and then we can get on a plane. But of course, he does not listen to anybody. So he stayed up all night and got on the plane. And when
How time does this flight this morning?
he told me it was supposed to be leaving at 6:18.
A.M.
Yes. When I was talking to him, I said, I thought that your plane was supposed to leave and only board 30 minutes before your plane's supposed to leave. So that's why I started questioning, like, is he just playing me? Is this plane really, But he sent a picture of a drink, and then you could see the corner of some plane or the tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever he called, I could hear something about American Airlines in the background. So I knew he was at the airport.
Okay.
But when his flight really was leaving, I don't know. And because I've made that comment about his plane should have already left.
Okay.
And I said, well, I've got to get in the shower and I've got to go to work. So that's whenever he texted me, whenever he landed in Miami.
Okay.
And he had put $500 on a ticket, and he thought he was doing a round trip. And I was like, why are you doing a round trip? I didn't think you were coming back. And he didn't want it to look suspicious that he didn't have a round trip ticket. And I said, what does it matter at this point? You're not coming back. But like I said, I'm thinking he's just leaving because he doesn't want to go back to prison.
Right. Which true.
Yes, he didn't, but I didn't know to what degree.
Okay. When y'all were in a relationship, did he ever threaten you or anything, or was he ever violent, or?
One time, we'd gotten into an argument, and he tried to grab my phone. I was trying to remember the phone. I don't even remember what the argument was about, but he was trying to grab my phone, and I took off with it, and he grabbed me, and I fell in the kitchen and tried to wrestle my phone from me, and he got it, and then he tried to go, and when he did, he hit the, he was calling my friend. It happened to be her, and I said, you're calling the win, like you're making a phone call right now, and if she does not speak to me, I promise you she will call the police. Like everybody was ready, like everybody knew I was trying to leave and was ready for me to get out of this relationship. And so he gave me back my phone, and I called her, and she said, if I don't hear from you every so often, then I will send the police there. And then that's kind of how I was able to get out of the relationship. Like, you went too far.
Okay.
I'm leaving. And
Melissa, did she say anything or mention anything such as them being in a relationship as far as any violent tendencies or anything, or anger issues?
no,
Okay.
she had never mentioned anything like that. She told me that her friends were very fearful for her. But she never mentioned that he had ever been violent with her or anything like that.
Okay.
I just know that she had told me, and like, she would tell him, "You're a piece of crap," and she told me one of the last things that she said to me is that if somebody's looking for him, I'm going to tell them where he's at. And that what I'm scared of is that they got into it, and she said, "I'm telling the police where you are, and he doesn't want to go back to prison, then that must be why he did it."
And I'm going to ask you this, as some tough questions I have asked.
Okay.
When he came to visit you, was there any intimacy at all?
Hugged him. No sexual relationships. None.
Okay. Anything? Any type of, other than the hug or whatnot, any other touching, petting,
No.
kissing?
No. He kissed me, like, no tongue. Like, he kissed me, hugged me by, and that was it. Like, I don't have those feelings. Like, no sexual relations between us before I never moved out, and there's not been any.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me at this time? I know. Your mind's gone all backward.
Yeah.
But just know, he's in custody.
I know, but I'm so scared.
About him?
Yeah.
How?
I mean, you know how people, am I going to have to face him in court? I'm scared.
There's always a possibility we go to court. Okay? Look at me. Okay? There's always that possibility we'll have to go to court. I mean, that's part of the judicial system.
Right.
Okay? But when I say you won't be there alone,
I know, but still, like, if he knows that, because I feel like that was his way of threatening me, and
listen,
it could have been me so easily.
When I tell you we have people lining up to give a testimony, we have people lining up to give us testimony. You're not the only one that told us where he was headed.
Okay.
So, again.
Yeah, but I feel I was like, when I
understand you think, oh my God, I'm the only one. You weren't.
Okay, but
you are not the only one.
I just didn't want to, because I thought if it was one of my friends or my family that had been murdered, or if it was me and somebody knew, like, that's why I kept calling. I'm like, this is Tom Sisson, and I thought, you need to catch him before you get off the plane.
Yes.
And then he disappears.
Right.
Because he was running from that.
Right. I'll do everything I can to keep him in prison. I'll do everything I can to ensure that he is not going to harm anyone ever again. And that's what my job is. At this point, you have to be her voice. You have to be her protector. You have to be her.
I wish if there was anything I could have done.
What could you have done?
I don't know. Nothing that I know. I just hated this. She was trying to be a good person, and you feel sorry for him. He's very charismatic and very charming, and she was trying to just give him a place to stay. But I never in a million years, with anything that he's never done, would ever think that he would do that. Even though I told you, I did never want him to be able to have anything to retaliate against me, but I didn't. I still, if you'd have said you think he will kill her, I would have said no.
Right. No.
But people say,
it's a bad deal.
A man accused of murdering a Jonesboro woman earlier this month was in court today after being extradited back to Craighead County from Florida. Katie Woodall was in the courtroom today as Sean Cohn appeared in court for the very first time. So, Katie,
What was it like in the courtroom?
Well, Amanda, the courtroom was full today for Sean Cohn's PC hearing, and friends and family of Alissa Reynolds were in the courtroom to hear the charges. Today, Cohn's bond was set at $5 million cash only. He was charged with first-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, tampering with physical evidence, and several other charges. Reynolds was found dead in a home on Brock Place on December 8th after friends called for a welfare check. According to the affidavit released today, Reynolds had been dead for several days when officers found her body with multiple puncture wounds to her face, hands, and arms. Reynolds and Cohn had been dating for the past year and a half. Investigators were able to determine that Cohn had cleaned the crime scene and disposed of evidence. He had also stolen Reynolds' car, cell phones, and debit and credit cards. Investigators tracked Cohn to Key West, Florida, where he was arrested on a plane and brought back to Arkansas. Cohn will be arraigned on February 28th for the murder charge. For a full list of his charges and everything that we know on this story, you can visit our website. For now, live in the newsroom, Katie Woodall, Region 8 News.
Before making a run for Florida, Sean actually met up with his friends Donnie and Gina Tilton too. He even showed them his list of countries he was picking from. When Gina asked him if Alissa was his girlfriend, he responded, "No, she probably hates me. She's just a nice person that lets me rent a room in her house because she knows I'll be homeless if she kicks me out." But then once all the evidence came out and message history between Alissa and Sean was reviewed, it seems like Stephanie Fagley was right. Alissa was extremely upset about the fact that Sean had dined and dashed from that restaurant. She was unhappy with all the trouble Sean was causing, and she was calling him out on his BS. She'd had enough. Alissa was done with him and was ready for him to not be around anymore. She wanted him to turn himself in. She wanted her life back and him out of it. This can all be seen in their message history. And that was about 11 p.m. on December 2nd. These were likely the last messages that were actually from Alissa, as Sean would digitally assume her identity for the next week. I'd say Sean likely came home drunk that night after being banned from the Elks, walked right in and murdered her where she laid. Unless, of course, he committed the crime as soon as she got home and had been texting himself from her phone. I guess we'll never know for sure. Either way, these were the actions of a pathetic, cruel little monster. Of course, that's not what Sean claimed happened. He swore he came home to find the back door kicked in and Alissa dead. But the problem with that is, well, everything, but primarily the fact that the door hadn't been damaged at all until the cops came to check on Alissa. And Sean said he never reported Alyssa's body because he was afraid no one would believe his story. And he's right, they didn't, because Sean Cohn is a lying sack of fill in the blank. Anyway, Sean pled not guilty. Initially, they were seeking the death penalty, which would have been a win-win for Sean because one of the last things he told Alissa was that he wanted to die.
New at 6, a judge has waived the death penalty for a man accused in the 2019 murder of a Jonesboro woman. According to online court records, the death penalty has been waived for Sean Gregory Cohn. Cohn is accused in the murder of Alissa Reynolds back in December 2019. Reynolds was found dead at a home in the 5000 block of Brock Place in Jonesboro. Cohn was arrested in Key West, Florida later that month. We'll continue to track this case and keep you updated. Breaking at 6, a Jonesboro man is sentenced to life without parole in the 2019 death of a Jonesboro woman. 50-year-old Sean Cohn was found guilty of capital murder and abuse of a corpse in the death of Alissa Reynolds in December 2019. Back in 2019, Jonesboro police conducted a welfare check at Reynolds' home and upon entering found Reynolds dead. Prosecuting attorney Keith Cressman said Reynolds had been dating Cohn. Investigators found that he'd stolen her vehicle, phone, and credit and debit cards. Cohn was later arrested in Key West, Florida. Cohn was also charged with 2 theft of property counts and fraudulent use of a credit or debit card.
What a needless and hateful act. Alissa Reynolds was a woman loved by all her family and friends. A woman who adored looking after dogs, a soul missed by everyone that knew her. Taken, simply because she had enough of being taken advantage of. Sadly, everyone can learn a lesson from her loss. You can learn to cut out the Sean Cohns in your life, or better yet, never let them in. Sean is clearly antisocial with sociopathic behavior patterns. People like him seek out and target those who are vulnerable, those who are sympathetic, those who they can latch their parasitic suckers onto and bleed dry. Like Stephanie Fagley said, they can be charming, they can be charismatic, they can even be attractive. Okay, Sean wasn't that. I mean, frankly, I don't see what anyone saw in him, but I didn't know him, and he must have had something that drew people in, close enough to him that he could attach himself to their lives so securely that they found it hard to escape his grasp even years later. Listen to the testimony of the ladies here in this video. Notice how it's something these people couldn't quite put their fingers on, but they felt it. They knew it. Alissa knew, but it was just too late. Rest in peace, Alissa Reynolds. Sean appealed his case and it was rejected. He tried to further claim that he had some big gambling debt, and the organization that he was in debt to were the ones actually responsible for the murder. But anyone with a keen sense of smell ain't buying that shit. If you ask me, Dana Watkins is very lucky. I firmly believe that when Sean was texting her to meet up with her at her house, he quite possibly had intentions to get rid of her too. But something tells me he might have struggled with Dana. She was ready for a fight and clued on. My advice? Be weary of monsters like Sean. They are malignant tumors to a good soul. Don't be blind, look for the signs. If someone in your life can't seem to follow the rules, and they break every law with reckless abandon while showing no conscience, and they have a habit of taking zero accountability for their actions, if they're draining the light out of your life every time they're around you, and making you feel miserable by consuming every ounce of your peace, no matter how charming they are, no matter how much you think you love them and they love you, no matter how pretty they do or don't look, stop and do the one thing you can. Run. I'm Mr. Black, and this is One Crime.